Hi all. What if I told you that everything you believed about Moscow excursions is completely wrong? Do you want to know how to see the main thing and feel the spirit of the capital in 3 hours? Do you know where acquaintance with Moscow begins so that it remains in your memory forever? You will learn about all this and much more from our video. We start at the Mayakovskaya metro station, next to the Satire Theater, a place where you immediately feel the pulse of the big city. Here we are all standing together, waiting for the tour to start. The first minutes are the most important. The guide affably explains how the trip works, explaining that the route is designed in such a way as to reveal Moscow from different sides, from ancient streets to modern high-rise buildings. Is 3 hours enough time to remember that much? Without a doubt, if you listen carefully. The bus we take is the most comfortable, and this is very important, especially if you, like me, do not like tiring walks. Imagine, you slowly drive through barbarian streets, mossy streets, large avenues, listening to historical facts and funny stories that you won't find in ordinary guidebooks. What do the most successful people in the world have in common? They know the history of the places where they find themselves. And now we will reveal their secrets. The bus smoothly approaches the center, the heart of Moscow opens up every minute. Along the way, the guide talks not only about the buildings, but also about the people who made the city what we see it today. We understand how Moscow has changed over the past decades, turning from an ancient city into a modern metropolis. Every corner here breathes history. There will be no boring pauses on this journey, each place smoothly flows into the next, creating a single story, and walks getting off the bus allow you not only to hear, but also to feel the atmosphere of the capital. You will see Moscow as it is real, alive and multifaceted. Get ready for amazing discoveries and bright impressions, everything is just beginning. The heart of the capital is Red Square and the Kremlin. We get off the bus, and the main square of Russia, Red Square, opens before us. This is a place that has seen many important events in its history. Imagine that at the end of the 15th century there was not a single stone here, but only an open area near the walls of the Kremlin. Tsar Ivan III ordered the demolition of wooden buildings to protect the Kremlin from fires. At this place a square appeared, which was first called Torgovaya, because they traded here, and later, Trinity, after the name of the church that stood on the south side. Only in the 17th century they began to call her Red, which meant beautiful, and this name remained forever. Today we see here the Kremlin, the St. Basil's Cathedral, Gum and Lenin's Mausoleum. Each of these buildings is a piece of history. As St. Basil's Cathedral was built in the 16th century in honor of the victory over the Kazan Khanate. Its 8 church towers symbolize the days of decisive battles. And next to it is the Kremlin, which was first made of wood, and then became stone, as we know it now. Red Square was the site of ceremonies, royal entrances, popular uprisings, and even public executions. In the 17th century, royal decrees from the execution place were announced here and foreign ambassadors were met. During Soviet times, the square became a symbol of the new government. Parades, demonstrations, and festive events took place here. The most famous parade took place in 1941, when troops went straight from Red Square to the front to defend Moscow. In the 18th century, the square became the center of cultural life. The first public library and book trade at the Spasskaya Gate operated here. In 1755, Moscow University opened in the building of the main pharmacy. Gradually, the square lost its purely commercial significance and turned into the main symbol of Moscow. Today Red Square is not just a square, but a living part of the country's history. Here every stone, every tower preserves the memory of the past. We walk along the cobblestones, listen to the stories of the guide and feel how the heart of the capital beats. Walk along the embankments, Cathedral of Christ the Saviour and Patriarchal Bridge. We walk along the Sofia and Bersenevskaya embankments, where every step opens up new views of the Kremlin and the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour. These places preserve the memory of different eras of Moscow. Once there were low, marshy shores, and the area was called a swamp. In the 16th century, the Great Meadow was located on this site, which was used for festive festivities and special events. In the 18th century, the meadow was drained, a canal was dug, and the territory turned into an island, washed by the Moscow River on one side and the canal on the other. In the 17th century, public executions took place at this site, as well as folk festivals. In 1724, the coronation of Empress Elizabeth Petrovna was celebrated here, and since then this place began to be called Tsarina's Meadow. After the swamp was drained, trading appeared here, and after 1917 the territory was built up with barns for storing goods. In 1946, a park with a fountain and lawns was laid out here, which became a favorite place for walking. Sofia Embankment got its name in honor of the Church of Assis Sophia of the Wisdom of God, which stood nearby. In 1496, by decree of Tsar Ivan III, all buildings opposite the Kremlin were demolished to create the Sovereign's Garden, which was later called Tsarina's Meadow. In the mid-17th century, garden craftsmen lived here, and the settlement received the name Srednyi Sadovniki. In 1701, the garden burned down and was not restored. In 1786, according to the design of the architect Bazanov and at the request of Empress Catherine II, they began to strengthen the banks with piles. It was planned to build a stone embankment, expanding it to include the river. Only in 1830s the wooden walls were replaced with two-tiered stone vaults, along which a new embankment was laid. In 1937 and 1938, new bridges appeared instead of the old ones, Bolshoi Kameny and Moskvoretsky. In 1964, the embankment was renamed in honor of the French politician, and in 1992 the historical name was returned. Bersenevskaya embankment was pedestrian, but in 1745 it was strengthened and made a roadway. There were 25 courtyards in the area at that time. The fire of 1812 destroyed most of the buildings, and restoration continued until 1840. In 1885, they began to build a confectionery factory here, which later became known as Red October. Buildings from the 17th century have been preserved on the embankment, including the Church of St. Nicholas and the chambers of the Duma clerk Kirillov. Today we walk along the Patriarchal Bridge, which connects the embankments and offers stunning views of the Cathedral of Christ the Saviour. This bridge has become a favorite place for walks and photographs. The guide tells how the appearance of the Moscow River changed, what famous people lived on these banks and why this bridge became a symbol of beauty and harmony. We take photos and enjoy views that will never be forgotten. Height and scale, Vorobyovy Gory in Moscow City. The bus smoothly climbs the Vorobyovy Gory, the highest point in the center of Moscow. From here you can see a panoramic view of the city that will take your breath away. We see Luzhniki, the main building of Moscow State University, the Novodevichy Convent and the Moscow City Towers. The guide talks about how the university was built, why Vorobyovy Gory is so important for Muscovites, and how the appearance of the capital has changed with the advent of modern skyscrapers. The history of this place goes deep into the past. Once on the top of the hill there was a small wooden temple dedicated to St. Georgius the Victorious. In the 17th century, kings hunted here, and the area was called Bald Mountain because it was devoid of forest. Legend has it that the name Vorobyov came from the nobleman Sparrow, who owned this land. In the 18th century, a palace was built on the mountain, which was never completed, and its ruins stood until the 19th century. In 1852, Moscow University was founded on Vorobyovy Gory. It was a brave idea. The university was located far from the city center, which seemed inconvenient to many. But the founder of the university, Mikhail Lomonosov, believed that education should be accessible to everyone, and the place on the top of the mountain symbolized the high purpose of science. The main building, built in the Baroque style, became an architectural masterpiece. Its majestic silhouette has been decorating the Moscow skyline for more than 170 years. During Soviet times, Vorobyovy Gory turned into a favorite vacation spot for Muscovites. Parades, demonstrations, and sports events were held here. Ski slopes were organized on the slopes of the mountain, and in winter this place became the center of the active life of the city. In the 1950s, the All-Union Agricultural Exhibition was held on Sparrow Hills, where the achievements of Soviet agriculture were demonstrated. The main building of the university is a true masterpiece of Stalinist Empire architecture. Its height is more than 220 meters, including the star at the top. The building contains more than 3,000 classrooms, offices, and laboratories. At the very top of the building there is an exhibition hall with a view of the whole of Moscow. The university is considered one of the most prestigious educational institutions not only in Russia, but also in the world. When I first saw this building, I couldn't believe my eyes. Its size, its beauty, its grandeur, all this amazes the imagination. We pause to enjoy the views and remember what the city was like in our youth. Each stone of this building tells the story of its construction, the history of the war, when hospitals operated here, and the stories of peacetime, when students from all over the country came here to study and dream. But what do the world's most successful people have in common? They know that they need to look to the future and not forget the past. And here, on Vorobyovy Gory, we see this future, the Moscow City Towers, which from a distance look like glass and steel, the embodiment of modern Moscow. Moscow City is a complex of skyscrapers that began to be built in 2004. The first residential building was opened in 2008. The towers are named after famous Moscow writers and political figures. These are Federation, Michael, Empire, Triumph, and others. Each tower has a different architectural design and purpose. Offices of large companies, residential apartments, hotels and entertainment centers are located here. The tallest tower, Lokhta Center, reaches a height of 264 meters. We look at these towers with mixed feelings. On the one hand, they symbolize progress and modernity, Russia's entry into a new century. On the other hand, they slightly violate the classic appearance of Moscow, created over centuries. But it is in this contrast between the old university on the top of the mountain and the new skyscrapers in the valley that we see a living Moscow, a city that remembers its past and is building its future. We are standing on the Sparrow Hills, the wind is blowing our hair, and the life of the capital is in full swing below. No one knows what choice the city will make next. But one thing is clear, the history of Moscow continues, and every new day brings new pages to this big book. Completion of the route from past to present. Our journey continues through the streets of Moscow, where ancient history meets the modern life of the city. We see the Bolshoi Theater, one of the symbols of Russian culture, the place where the most famous operas and ballets take place. Its impressive building was opened in 1860 and since then has been reconstructed more than once, maintaining its classic appearance and interior design features. Imagine, in those days, people came here from long distances to see world-class art. Nearby is Novy Arbat, a street that has gone through many changes. Initially, it was a narrow shopping street, and in the era of the 60s of the 20th century it was rebuilt into a wide avenue space with modern buildings and skyscrapers. New Arbat became a symbol of the renewed Moscow. The best shops, cafes and cinemas were brought here. The daily life of city residents takes place on this street, and for tourists this place is a window into the modern rhythm of Moscow. Driving past the Mosfilm studio, we remember those who create the magic of cinema. Mosfilm was founded in 1924 and is the largest film studio in Russia. Hundreds of films familiar to every generation were shot here, from Soviet classics to modern films. Every time I drive past, I remember how in my youth I dreamed of visiting the set of my favorite film. The guide smoothly sums it up: all of Moscow that we saw today is not just a collection of attractions. It is a living mosaic of events, people, and time. Ancient streets, squares, embankments are combined with modern architecture and culture, uniting into a unique image of the capital. This is where the past meets the present and calls to the future. Our walk ends in the same place where it began. It's symbolic and convenient. In 3 hours we saw a lot, but most importantly, we felt the soul of the city. What other secrets does Moscow keep? Where to go next? Anyone who touches its beauty and history at least once will tell about this. Believe me, such a trip remains in the memory for a long time and gives confidence that on each subsequent visit the capital will open up from a new, even more interesting side. Don't forget about the useful services that we indicate in the pinned comment. Subscribe to the channel, like or dislike. Have a nice holiday everyone.